Throughout Silent Hill 2, there are several cryptic messages one can come across, some of which are addressed to the main character James, and some that are not. Some are written on walls in what looks like blood, and others are written eloquently on paper. It surprises me that nobody really seems to question who wrote these messages. I suppose that many of us might have surmised that the town of Silent Hill was somehow speaking to James, at least for the messages that were addressed specifically to him. I actually don't believe that's true. In fact, I believe that, for the most part, it was one character from the Silent Hill series that wrote most of, if not all, of these messages. Before I present to you my theory regarding this matter, I want to make a recommendation. Though not necessary, it would benefit you to watch two of my other videos on Silent Hill mythology before watching this video. One is titled The Multiple Dimension Theory, and the other is titled Anima. If you choose not to, that's fine. Just know that the theory I am presenting you today is based off of conclusions made in those videos. I will summarize those conclusions for you here, but if you want proof regarding these conclusions, you'll have to go watch those other videos. Now, in order to explain who left these messages, I will need to start with something that is seemingly unrelated. Do not worry though, things will all make sense in the end. I will begin by addressing one criticism left by some people in my Anima video. In that video, I argue that Maria, like the other monsters in Silent Hill, are physical manifestations of James's unconscious mind. Pyramid Head personifies James's guilt, the nurse personifies James's lust, and in respect to Maria, she is a reference to a psychoanalytic concept invented by Carl Jung, that which is known as the anima. The anima is the personification of all feminine psychological tendencies in a man's psyche. In simpler terms, the anima is a man's feminine side, or inner woman. Maria is James's anima given physical form. Though most people seemed to like this theory, there was one consistent criticism that people left. If Maria is a product of James's mind, why is it implied in the Born from a Wish expansion that she is her own person, an autonomous individual, living her own life? For some reason, being a product of somebody else's mind while also being one's own person don't seem to coalesce in the minds of Silent Hill fans. I will explain why both things can be true at the same time. In my video titled The Multiple Dimension Theory, I argue that the contents of one's mind actually exist in physical form, but in a different dimension. In other words, this separate dimension is the physical manifestation of one's unconscious mind. It is the place we go to in our dreams. The town of Silent Hill is the place where the unconscious dimension and the conscious dimension meet. I also argue in that video that this concept of mind and matter sharing an intrinsic link is also based in Jungian psychology, a theory called synchronicity. One of the tenets of this theory is that the material world, or matter, is in part mind, and the mind is in part matter. In addition, we sometimes seemingly encounter the products of our mind in real life. If you want examples of this, please refer to the Multiple Dimension Theory video, as well as my video titled My Experiences with Synchronicity. Links to both are in the description box below. One of Jung's arguments in favor of the link between mind and matter is as follows. Psyche cannot be totally different from matter, for how otherwise could it move matter? And matter cannot be alien to psyche, for how else could matter produce psyche? What such a theory implies is that the contents of our mind, our dreams, and our nightmares might have some sort of material reality to them. It's a terrifying thought, so terrifying that many other forms of fiction have exploited the idea in the best possible ways. Games like Bloodborne, Death Stranding, and Hellblade have made good use of the concept. However, there are two games that make use of the concept in a way that validates my theories about Silent Hill. Those games are Alan Wake and Control. both of which are made by the same developer, Remedy, and both of which share the same universe. Control makes reference to the synchronicity concept in one of its documents, as well as one of its locations, the Synchronicity Lab. In both that game and Alan Wake, we see the products of a person's mind given physical form. Like the town of Silent Hill, the other two games have bridge points between the conscious and unconscious realms, that being Cauldron Lake in Alan Wake and the oldest house in Control. Now let's get back to how Maria can be her own individual while also being a product of James's mind. Both Control and Alan Wake offer a similar scenario. In both games, the characters of Alan Wake and Thomas Zane demonstrate the ability to write things into existence. There has been a long-standing debate among fans about the relationship between Alan Wake and Thomas Zane. The debate centers around who wrote whom into existence, who invented the other. Nobody knows for certain. In fact, I don't even think the developers know. In Alan Wake's spin-off game, American Nightmare, a manuscript page indirectly comments on this problem. Who created who? What is really real? Everything is as real as everything else. You learn to let go of the things you can't control and go with the flow. We can say two things for certain, though. One, both Thomas Zane and Alan Wake are separate individuals, and two, both characters influence each other by their thoughts. Both are autonomous individuals to some extent, but eventually, things happen in both their lives which makes them lose some of that autonomy. Their free will is affected by this connection to the other. Alan's thoughts influence Thomas, and Thomas's thoughts influence Alan. In respect to Maria, we see the same struggle with free will acted out. In the Born from a Wish expansion, it's heavily implied that before she met with James, she was living her own life. She was a dancer at Heaven's Night, but then she became involved with something that was out of her control, something beyond her will. So as we can see, the relationship between Alan Wake and Thomas Zane mirrors that of James and Maria. Though you might say there is one difference. We don't know who created whom between Alan Wake and Thomas Zane, but seemingly, we know that James created Maria. But did he? Maybe James is a product of Maria's mind. Maybe it's both. If you think about it for more than a second, you realize it's not all that far-fetched. Maybe the connection between James and Maria is the same type of connection between Alan Wake and Thomas Zane, in that the connection defies their free will and binds them together in this inescapable drama. In my mind, such a force can only be described as fate. Keep the word fate in mind. I'll be referencing it again in a moment. In the Born from a Wish expansion, Maria encounters a man named Ernest Baldwin. We never see Ernest, as he is always hiding behind a door. We know very little about him, aside from the fact that he had a daughter who died and that somehow he knows who James is. A knowledge that is never explained. I didn't have a theory on the matter until recently when I watched a series on the Born from a Wish expansion by fellow YouTuber Reinstall Paul, a creator who I have referenced twice already in this series. Here's what Paul has to say about Ernest.
And since Ernest seems to know so much about James, Maria, and presumably Mary as well, could Ernest be the one who left this message on the wall for James to read at Neely's bar? Perhaps Ernest takes it upon himself to help James, or maybe he is just another aspect of James Sunderland's unconscious in some sort of Alan Wake double fake-out author sort of way.
I was the one who came up with the idea that the relationship between James and Maria was like that of Alan Wake and Thomas Zane. When I heard Paul put forward his idea that Ernest influencing James and Maria is similar to the whole Alan Wake thing, I nearly fell out of my chair. Everything synchronized. It made so much sense. Of course, Ernest is a product of James's mind. That would explain why he knows him in the same way Maria does. Unfortunately, Paul doesn't elaborate much beyond this in his video. He only says that maybe Ernest is a product of James's mind. he doesn't specify what part. I think everything falls into line if we assume that the part of James's mind that Ernest represents is his conscience. Follow my logic here for a second. What does your conscience do? It guides you. Not only that, it judges you. It even tortures you at times. The messages left around Silent Hill share a similar purpose. The letter found in the Brookhaven Hospital instructs James to face his demons, as well as guide him to the letter and a wrench. The letter James finds alongside the wrench prays that the Lord has mercy on James's soul, while also guiding him to the key needed to get inside the historical society. The message on the wall inside Neely's bar implies that James will go to hell if he dies. All these messages serve the same function as one's conscience does: guidance and psychological punishment. The references to the Lord and hell match up well with what we know about Ernest. Ernest mentions God in his discussions with Maria, and on the floor memorial for his daughter. The guilt that Ernest feels over the death of his daughter parallels the guilt that James feels over the death of his wife. And of course, if Ernest is James's conscience, it would make sense that he not only knows James, but that he wishes to help him, while also chastising him as a bad man. And finally, there's the issue of fate. Given the obvious psychic links between Thomas Zane and Alan Wake, as well as between James, Maria, and Ernest, their coming together seems inevitable. As much as they might view themselves as autonomous beings capable of free will, it seems that certain forces outside of their control are pulling their strings, as if they were created by some higher power to act out this drama. Such a thing could only be described as fate. Ernest knows this perfectly well, asking Maria outright if she believed in fate. She denies the idea, and understandably so. What would be more horrifying than knowing that not only were you not in control of your own destiny, but that you were the product of a psychotic mind? It is no wonder, then, that Maria contemplates the act of suicide. Once again, it has been nearly a year since my last Silent Hill Mythology video. I apologize for that. I wish I could do more of them, given the fact that my Silent Hill videos are the most popular on my channel. Nevertheless, I will not do Silent Hill videos unless I have something original to talk about, and they can be of the highest quality. I hope this video continued that tradition. If you liked this video, make sure to hit that like button. It helps me out so much, guys, and it's totally free to do. Also, if you want to support the work I do on this channel, be it my analysis videos or my mental health advocacy, there are links to my PayPal and my Subscribestar account in the description box. Special thanks to Gaming University for helping me with the Alan Wake aspects of this video. Until next time, just remember, as always, to stay yellow.